Hello, feral friends and fellow nature nerds, and welcome to Dirt Dispatch number 46, the first Dirt Dispatch episode of 2026. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara. I'm officially using my new podcasting equipment. I actually used it on the last episode too, but thanks again to Chris and Carnita Favre for the Christmas gift. Now I no longer have to worry about any of my jokes falling flat because there will always be laughter at the touch of a button. And I can also get a standing ovation. Thank you very much. Along with other fun stuff like whatever this is. I have no idea, but it's fun, and hopefully the sound of the podcast has improved with this new equipment. Now, over the holidays, I've been thinking a lot about how people perceive nature. Specifically, I've been thinking about one of my favorite quotes, which comes from the book of Wolves and Men by author Barry Lopez. He wrote, "We know little about wolves, but a great deal about what we believe wolves to be." And part of why I've been thinking of this quote a lot recently is that my social media algorithms have been serving me up quite a few wolf videos. And while most of the comments on these videos are supportive of wolves, there's always someone who's anti-wolf, and they're more than ready to spout misinformation about either the danger wolves pose to humans and livestock or the alleged negative impact they have on ungulates like deer and elk. So first, let's look at the danger wolves pose to human. I took a quick look at the data that goes all the way back to 1761. Now, since 1761, there have been approximately 113 documented incidents of wolf attacks on humans here in North America. 113 over 265 years. That works out to about one attack every 2 years. Now, of those 113 documented cases, 38 were fatal, although in one of the cases, the victims were indigenous people who had been stricken with smallpox. And yeah, guess where they got that? But the wolves were drawn to the smell of unburied dead bodies and then attacked the sick. So my point is the wolves can't really be blamed for this incident. The people they attacked had essentially already been sentenced to death. It's tragic and it's horrifying for sure, but definitely not the fault of the wolves, more the fault of the European invaders who gave the indigenous people smallpox. But again, doing the math, that's about one fatal attack every 7 to 8 years on average. To put that in perspective, every year in the United States, about 20 people are killed by lightning. So you're literally more likely to get struck by lightning than attacked by a wolf, even if you currently live in wolf territory. Okay, so what about livestock? Well, yes, wolves will sometimes prey on livestock, but there are things that livestock owners can do to help reduce that risk. Data collected by the Voyageurs Wolf Project in northern Minnesota showed that a 4-foot fence combined with livestock guardian dogs is enough to deter wolves. There's a ranch right in the middle of the greater Voyageurs ecosystem that the Voyageurs Wolf Project covers, and they just reported their first year without any livestock lost to wolf predation after employing these two relatively simple methods. I mean, if you have livestock, it's your responsibility to ensure that they have things like food and water. You also have to take some responsibility for ensuring their safety. And just killing wolves doesn't count. In fact, it may be counterproductive. Killing wolves indiscriminately as a form of quote unquote control may actually lead to more livestock predation because younger, less experienced wolves will then look to establish territory and find an easy meal. Okay, so what about deer and other ungulates? I recently saw a comment on a wolf video stating, without any sources of course, that there had been a 75% reduction in large ungulate populations in that person's area, all because of wolves. Okay, first of all, let's think logically about this claim. Never in all of history have wolves decimated their prey population. You know why? because they themselves would not have survived if they had. And we still have both wolves and large ungulates. And that's because the data shows, and again, credit to the Voyager's Wolf Project, that deer and other ungulate populations are primarily driven by winter severity, not predation. Severe winter conditions mean that these animals have a harder time finding food, a harder time staying warm, and even spending more energy having a harder time moving around. If they survive the winter, they come into the spring in poor condition. Their birth rate is lower, and fewer of their young survive to adulthood. And this has been shown to be true even where there are no wolves. Predator populations, on the other hand, are driven by the prey populations. When the prey population is low, predators have to spend more energy trying to find food. Their young may starve because they can barely feed themselves, or they themselves might starve. The end result is ultimately a sort of balancing act between predator and prey. And this is a relatively common pattern in nature. It's not limited to wolves and large ungulates. Lynx and snowshoe hares, Arctic foxes and lemmings, which I talked about on the last episode of the Dispatches from the Forest podcast, snowy owls and lemmings. Predator and prey populations are inexorably linked together. And much of this is true for coyotes too, including we know little about coyotes, but a great deal about what we believe coyotes to be. They're not a danger to humans. You've heard me say it before. In North America, we average less than 10 bites per year, despite the fact that coyotes, unlike wolves, are found all over North America, including pretty much every major city. And there have only been 2 recorded human deaths from coyotes, one in the United States and one in Canada. And it's even easier to protect livestock from coyotes than it is from wolves. And they have an even smaller impact on deer populations. Coyotes hunt singly or in pairs, and typically their prey is less than 25 pounds. They might take deer fawns in the spring, but that window is short, less than 2 weeks. They don't, except in rare cases, take adult deer. Usually only if the deer is sick or already injured, and they certainly don't overhunt their prey. But what I've found lately is that there's a lot of people out there that either spend a lot of time in nature or claim to, that still somehow keep themselves isolated from the very natural world that they immerse themselves in. I've had people, in an effort to assert some sort of expertise, say things to me like, I've been hunting for over 30 years. Or my recent favorite was, I've been trapping longer than you've been alive, probably, without any idea how old I am. But then they just regurgitate the same disproven myths and misconceptions about X, Y, or Z. And some of these things just make me shake my head. I saw recently someone suggest that bears intentionally kill their prey, quote, as slowly and painfully as possible, unquote, as if the bear derived some kind of sick pleasure from that. No, they don't. It may seem brutal to us, but the bear is just focused on survival. There was the person that claimed that owls and crows, quote, go out of their way to take each other out. No, they don't. Anyone that has ever claimed that coyotes lure dogs out to the pack to kill them. Nope, still not true. Or anyone that has ever said that predators like wolves or coyotes kill for sport. No, just no. They kill to survive. There's only one animal that kills for sport. One guy told me that I was wrong about the last death from a coyote in the United States being in 1981. Quote, a kid died in Huntington Beach a few years ago after being attacked by coyotes, he told me. A 10-second Google search proved him wrong. Attacked, yes, but, quote, admitted to the hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries, unquote, was the first sentence of the article. I didn't even have to go read the full text to find it. Now, to his credit, that guy admitted he was wrong, which is a victory in itself on the internet. Many animals lead much more complex emotional lives than we give them credit for. Corvids, like crows and magpies, assemble around a dead member of their flock. Now, whether it's to mourn, investigate the cause of death, or determine if there's an opportunity to move up in the hierarchy, we don't know. But whatever the reason, it demonstrates something more. Coyotes mate for life. They search if their partner is missing. They mourn if their partner dies, and often they don't remate. Now, shortly after I wrote that, I saw a post on Facebook by National Geographic about this very topic. And there were several people in the comments insisting that it couldn't possibly be true because if it was, then coyotes would have gone extinct a long time ago. Wait, what? What math did you use to reach that conclusion? The average litter size for coyotes is 6 pups. If a pair had even 1 litter of 6 and only half of that litter survived to adulthood, that's still adding 3 coyotes to the population. And that's just conservative estimates. These people may be incredibly knowledgeable about being outside to a certain extent, but they've still got these walls of bias that are preventing them from assimilating any new information and truly appreciating the beauty of the nature that they're immersing themselves in. People want to ascribe human motivations, assume nefarious intent, or hold animals to our societal morals. And that's just unfair. It's wrong. And it'll keep us from fully appreciating the beauty, the mystery, and the magic of nature. So my message to you in the new year is don't do that. Be open to new information. Don't be afraid to admit that you were wrong or had wrong information. It's okay to change your mind and your opinion when you learn something new. That's what learning is. And on that note, my feral friends, well, let's wrap this one up. If you want to support the podcast in the new year, sounds like a great resolution to me. Here's some ways to do that. Become a patron. Subscriptions start at just $5 a month, and with 3 paid months, you get some very cool Dispatches from the Forest merch. You can find all the details at patreon.com/dispatchesfromtheforest. You can donate using PayPal or Venmo, and my email address, dispatchesfromtheforest@gmail.com. You can also use that address to email me if you have questions or comments or a request for a future episode. I'm always open to requests. And you can donate using the Cash App if you prefer, and the hashtag #ForestNerd. If you prefer to be old school and just send a check, that's fine too. Just send me a message. I'll let you know what my mailing address is. Check out the merch store at cafepress.com/shop/dispatchesfromtheforest. Click on products and find something you like. Finally, follow Dispatches from the Forest on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. I'm your host, Tim the Nature Nerd O'Hara, reminding you to go outside and get dirty. Dispatches from the Forest recognizes that the lands where we live, work, and recreate are the traditional homelands of the Eastern Shoshone and Northern Arapaho people. We understand that this land holds immense significance for the original stewards, native nations, and peoples of this region. Dirt Dispatches is a production of Dispatches from the Forest and may not be used or rebroadcast whole or in part without express written permission.